This is the unequal deal most men never read the fine print on. One side signs up for a lifetime of commitment and assets. The other side can quietly walk away from the core of the agreement. And guess which side the law protects? If you're a man even thinking about marriage, pay attention. In this video, I'll expose 3 bitter truths, plus 1 contract strategy that could keep you out of the trap. And in the middle, I'll reveal the shocking post-wedding depreciation almost no man sees coming. Reason 1. Marriage is a transaction you can't win. Let's start with the basics. Every relationship, romantic, professional, even friendship, carries a transactional nature. That doesn't mean love isn't real. That doesn't mean passion or devotion are fake. But underneath the emotions, there's always an exchange. For centuries, marriage was a straightforward concept to understand. A man traded resources, protection, and lifelong commitment. In return, he received intimacy, children, and loyalty. The roles were clear. The responsibilities were balanced, and because both sides offered something scarce, the exchange felt fair. But today, that equation no longer holds. Men still bring everything to the table: financial stability, long-term protection, and total commitment. These resources are available 24/7, and they don't depreciate with time. In fact, men's earning power, health, and longevity have only increased. Meanwhile, the prize men are told they're chasing intimacy. It is no longer scarce. Access to intimacy has never been easier in human history. Apps, dating platforms, social media, international travel, and yes, even digital substitutes have destroyed the old scarcity model. What once was rare and valuable, it is now abundant and accessible at the tap of a screen. And yet, culture pretends the old deal is still intact. Men are pressured to overinvest in marriage, to give lifetime resources and unshakable loyalty, as if intimacy remains the ultimate prize. It's not anymore. So what happens when men play by yesterday's rules in today's market? They lose. They overpay for something that no longer commands that kind of price. It's like buying a baseball card in 1985 for thousands of dollars, believing it's rare, only to discover later it's been reprinted a million times. The card looks the same, but the value collapsed. That's the modern marriage exchange. Men pay premium prices for something that's no longer rare. If you've seen this play out in real life, drop a comment below and let's talk about it. Reason 2. The legal system turns men into depreciating assets. Now let's talk about the courts. The moment you say, "I do," everything you own instantly changes in value. What was once yours alone is now considered shared property. And if things go wrong, you don't just risk losing half. You risk losing control of your financial future. Think about this. A man could spend 20 years building wealth, saving diligently, investing wisely, and creating a strong financial foundation for himself. But the second he marries, those assets become vulnerable. In many states, they're treated as community property, meaning if divorce happens, she can walk away with half. It doesn't matter if she contributed little to that wealth. It doesn't matter if you built it long before you even met her. The law doesn't care about effort or history. It cares about division. Yes, in a handful of states, just 9. To be precise, premarital assets may be protected. But in the other 41, the rules are brutal. Your bank account, your investments, even your retirement fund can be sliced in half with a single court ruling. And here's the kicker. Even a prenup may not save you. Judges have the authority to throw them out if they decide the agreement feels unfair. So the document you believed was ironclad might be nothing more than a false sense of security. It's like driving a brand new car off the lot. The second those wheels hit the pavement, you lose half the value. Except in marriage. It's not a car. It's your entire life savings. Men go into marriage thinking they're gaining stability. But under the current system, they're signing a contract that instantly turns them into depreciating assets. Know a man who's been through this nightmare? Share this video with him right now. It might save another brother from the same mistake. Reason 3. Men are overpaying for a shrinking return. Let's face it, men today are bringing more to the table than ever before. Higher incomes, better health, longer levensspans, stronger ability to provide and protect. In almost every measurable way, men's contribution has grown. And yet, the return they get from marriage keeps shrinking. Western culture has shifted. Women are encouraged to delay commitment, to focus on careers, to treat marriage as an optional lifestyle accessory. By the time many are ready to settle down, they expect men to still pay full price, even though the value exchange isn't what it used to be. The result? Men are pressured to hand over lifetime resources, undivided loyalty, and long-term stability, in exchange for less intimacy, less loyalty, and less security than ever. It's not that women have no value. It's that the deal has eroded. Men are paying premium prices for benefits that are no longer premium. I've seen this firsthand. A friend of mine spent years working overtime, building a career, and finally getting married in his late 32nd. He gave everything: his time, his savings, his commitment. Within 5 years, the intimacy was gone. The respect was gone. But the obligations remained. He was overpaying for a return that kept shrinking. It's like walking into a dealership, handing over your full paycheck, and driving away with a car that already has 150,000 miles on it. The price tag says luxury. But under the hood, the value just isn't there. That's what modern marriage has become for many men. A high-priced contract delivering a low-value return. Do you agree men are overpaying today? Hit the like button so more guys wake up to this truth. Reason 4. Western women are playing by outdated rules. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Most Western women are still playing the marriage game like it's 1950. They were raised to believe intimacy is scarce. They were told that just by showing up, their presence alone is enough to secure a lifetime commitment. They assume men will always pay the full price their grandmothers once commanded. But the world has changed. The market has changed. The value exchange has shifted dramatically. Men still bring security, resources, and long-term commitment. Those things have never lost their value. In fact, in today's uncertain economy, they're worth more than ever. A man's ability to provide stability in a chaotic world is priceless. And yet, what many women bring to the deal hasn't kept pace. Intimacy, once rare, is now widely available. Loyalty, once assumed, is now conditional. Respect, once a cornerstone of marriage, is often withheld unless constant demands are met. I remember talking to a divorced man in his 42nd. He said, "I felt like I was paying for a first-class ticket, but when the plane took off, they shoved me into coach and told me to be grateful." Oh, that's how many men feel today. Paying yesterday's price for today's downgraded value. It's like booking a 5-star hotel suite for $500 a night. But when you check in, you discover the carpets are stained, the furniture is broken, and the room hasn't been renovated in decades. The price went up, the value went down, and you're expected to smile and accept it. This mismatch between outdated expectations and modern reality is pushing more men away from marriage altogether. If you believe the rules of the game have changed, type the word "true" in the comments. Reason 5. The family courts are a loaded gun pointed at men. When most men think about marriage, they picture love, children, and stability. What they don't picture until it's too late is the courtroom. Here's the hard truth. If the marriage collapses, the man doesn't just lose his partner. He walks into a legal system designed to bleed him dry. Alimony, child support, asset division, custody battles. Even if he was loyal, even if he provided faithfully, even if she simply says, "I'm not happy," and the court doesn't care who initiated the divorce. The court doesn't care about loyalty or effort. The law assumes he must pay, and pay he will. Sometimes for decades, sometimes for life. I spoke with a man in his 52nd. He worked 25 years in a corporate job, saving for retirement. When his wife filed for divorce, the court awarded her half of everything, plus alimony, plus child support, even though their kids were nearly grown. He told me, "It feels like I'm financing the very person who destroyed my life." It's like playing Russian roulette. But instead of one bullet in the chamber, there are 4 or 5. And you're the one forced to pull the trigger. You might survive, but the odds are stacked against you. This is why many men say marriage isn't a contract. It's a gamble. Except the house always wins. And in this casino, the man is always the target. Have you watched a brother, a father, or a friend get crushed in family court? Tag him in this video so he knows he's not alone. Reason 6. Intimacy is front-loaded. Then withheld. Let's talk about the bait and switch. Almost every married man knows. In the beginning, intimacy feels effortless. Dating is exciting. The honeymoon is passionate. The energy is high, and physical connection feels abundant. But once the vows are spoken, something changes. Slowly, the intimacy that built the foundation of the relationship begins to fade. At first, it's small excuses. I'm tired. Not tonight. I'm stressed. And months turn into years. And the man realizes he's still upholding his side of the deal, working long hours, paying bills, providing stability, while the intimacy that was once daily or weekly is now monthly or gone altogether. A man I knew once said, "Before marriage, I felt like the most desired man in the world. After marriage, I felt like a roommate with a wallet." His words cut deep because so many men echo the same story. They enter the contract, believing intimacy is part of the exchange, only to discover it can be rationed or withheld, with no consequences on the other side. And yet, he can't do the same. He can't stop paying the mortgage. He can't stop providing food or protection. His obligations are non-negotiable, but hers can vanish without penalty. It's like paying full price for an all-you-can-eat buffet. The moment you sit down with your plate, the kitchen shuts down. The sign still says buffet. You're still charged for buffet, but the food is gone. That's the silent bait and switch baked into many modern marriages. If you've ever seen this bait and switch happen, hit like and share to spread the word. Reason 7. Global options have changed the game. A generation ago, your choices in marriage were limited. You met a girl from your school, from your church, from your neighborhood, maybe from your workplace. The dating pool was small, and most men chose from whatever was nearby. But today, that world is gone. Technology and travel have blown the gates wide open. With a phone in your pocket, you can connect with women in Brazil, Colombia, Thailand, Eastern Europe, places where traditional values still hold strong. Why would a man chain himself to a deal that feels one-sided at home, when he can find women abroad who value loyalty, respect, and family, without using the relationship as leverage for financial gain? A friend of mine, divorced in his 40s, decided to try dating overseas. He met a woman in the Philippines through mutual friends. Within weeks of visiting, he said he felt more appreciated, more respected, and more at peace than he had in 10 years of marriage back home. The difference wasn't about looks or status. It was about values. She wanted partnership, not power. And that simple shift changed his life. It's like being told for years the only meal you're allowed to eat is stale bread from your local store. Then, one day, you discover a global buffet, fresh, abondant, and available at a fraction of the cost. Once you've tasted freedom, you never go back to stale bread. Men today aren't trapped by geography anymore. And once they realize the global marketplace exists, they start asking a dangerous question. Why settle for less at home? Would you ever consider dating abroad? Comment on a country you'd choose. I want to see where your mind goes first. Reason 8. Children no longer require marriage. For centuries, one of the strongest arguments for marriage was children. Men wanted a family. They wanted to pass on their name, their legacy, their bloodline. And the only socially accepted way to do that was through marriage. But the world has changed. Today, fatherhood no longer requires the marriage contract. Surrogacy is widely available. Adoption is an option. Even co-parenting arrangements outside of marriage are becoming more common. A man can decide to raise a child without putting his assets, his freedom, or his sanity on the chopping block. I know a man in his late 42nd who wanted to be a father, but had no desire to marry again after a brutal divorce. He chose surrogacy overseas. Today, he's raising a beautiful daughter on his own terms. No custody battles. No alimony. No risk of losing half his wealth. He told me, for the first time, I get to be a dad without being a prisoner. That's the power of options. It's like being told the only way to own a car is to lease it for life with crushing monthly payments. Then you discover you can buy one outright, no hidden strings, no endless fees. Why would anyone go back to leasing? That's the new reality for men. Marriage is no longer the gatekeeper to fatherhood. The system can't force men into a lopsided deal just because they want kids. And once men realize that, the last emotional leverage point marriage had, it begins to crumble. If you agree that family should never equal financial suicide, smash that like button and let the algorithm know. Reason 9. Prenups are a false safety net. A lot of men try to protect themselves with one word, prenup. They think it's the magic shield. They believe it will keep their assets safe, their savings protected, and their future secure. But here's the harsh reality. Prenups are not bulletproof. Judges can and do throw them out. If a court decides the agreement feels unfair, end quote, it can be set aside in a heartbeat, and suddenly, the man who thought he had protection finds himself exposed to the same financial wreckage as if he never signed anything at all. I once heard about a man who built a business from scratch. Before marriage, he insisted on a prenup to safeguard it. 10 years later, his wife filed for divorce. The judge ruled that enforcing the prenup would leave her at a disadvantage. Oh, the contract was tossed. She walked away with half of his company, the very thing he had worked his entire life to create. His words still haunt me. I followed the rules. I played it safe. And it didn't matter. Oh, it's like buying a bulletproof vest. You put it on with confidence, believing nothing can harm you. But when the first real bullet is fired, you realize the fine print says, not guaranteed to stop actual gunfire? That's a prenup. A false sense of security that disappears the moment you need it most. Men are sold the idea that prenups are insurance. But in practice, they're little more than a gamble. The system holds the final power, not the contract. Have you ever believed prenups were truly bulletproof? Write the word reality in the comments and tell me what you think now. Reason 10. The idea of lifelong marriage is going extinct. Every man has seen that older couple, walking hand in hand, smiling at each other, still together after 50 years. It looks beautiful. It looks rare. And that's because it is rare. Once upon a time, lifelong marriage was the standard. Our grandparents built entire lives together. Divorce was uncommon. Commitment was assumed. And society celebrated couples who made it to the finish line. But today, that vision is slipping away. Modern culture has rewritten the script. Social media tempts people with endless options. The sexual revolution changed expectations. The legal system makes quitting easy and profitable for one side. The result, the forever marriage is turning into an endangered species. I once saw an older couple in their 70s, laughing as they walked. They had that spark most men secretly long for. And I felt a pang of envy because deep down, I knew their kind of bond is becoming almost impossible to find today. Meanwhile, I've seen dozens of younger couples fall apart within just a few years. Their marriages ending in bitterness, custody battles, or financial ruin. The contrast is striking. What was once normal is now almost a miracle. It's like spotting a rare animal in the wild. Once, herds roamed freely. Now, you might glimpse one or two survivors if you're lucky. Everyone stops to stare because deep down, we know this species is going extinct. That's the reality of lifelong marriage. It may exist in rare cases, but for most men, it's a fading dream. And building your future on a fading dream is a dangerous gamble. If you've seen this fantasy collapse in real life, share this video with someone who still believes in it, because the truth may save them from heartbreak. So let's recap. Reason 1. Marriage is a transaction men can't win. Reason 2. The legal system makes men depreciating assets. Reason 3. Men are overpaying for shrinking returns. Reason 4. Western women are playing by outdated rules. Reason 5. Family courts are a loaded gun pointed at men. Reason 6. Intimacy is front-loaded. Then withheld. Reason 7. Global options have changed the game. Reason 8. Children no longer require marriage. Reason 9. Prenups are a false safety net. Reason 10. Lifelong marriage is going extinct. 10 reasons. 10 warnings. 10 brutal truths that every man must face before signing that contract. So where does this leave us? It doesn't mean love is impossible. It doesn't mean relationships are doomed. It means men must wake up. Stop signing deals you don't understand. Stop walking blind into traps set by outdated systems, and start building a life on your own terms. Because the dark side of marriage isn't just about divorce. It's about the silent risk you carry every single day once that contract is signed. And once you know the truth, you can't unsee it. So here's my advice. Stay smart. Stay strong. Stay free. And if you still choose marriage, choose it with your eyes wide open, not with blind hope. If this video hit you hard, smash that like button, drop a comment below, and share it with a brother who needs to hear this message. Most importantly, subscribe for more hard truths, because no one else is going to tell you this. Stay healthy, stay sharp, and if you can, stay single.